Now, with Parliament dissolved and the writ of election issued, Singapore is all set for the polls. Here's a look at what to expect ahead of Nomination Day.
On Nomination Day, candidates will have to turn up at nomination centres between 11 a.m. and 12 noon. They will present their nomination papers, in which they will state the constituency they will contest in. Candidates have to pay a deposit of $14,500. This is about 8% of the total allowances paid to a Member of Parliament in 2014. Candidates can also object to any nomination. These can be based on the grounds that candidates are not suitable or when nomination papers have not been properly filled. Once nomination closes at noon, Singaporeans will know if there are any walkovers. Candidates can start campaigning as soon as nomination closes, with rallies expected to be held across the island. Internet advertising has also been allowed since the last elections in 2011. That means parties and candidates can use social media as a platform, for example, to engage voters. Then comes Cooling Off Day, which falls a day before Singaporeans vote. Announced in April 2010, Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong had said the day will give voters time to reflect rationally on issues after the emotional high of election campaigning. On this day, no campaigning is allowed.
Nomination forms can be downloaded from the Elections Department website. The forms must be signed by the candidate, a proposer, a seconder, and at least 4 assenters. These are voters who endorse the candidate's nomination. The forms then have to be handed to the returning officer at the nomination centre between 11 a.m. and noon on nomination day. The returning officer for this general election is Chief Executive of the Energy Market Authority, Ng Wai Chung. There are a total of 9 nomination centres for the 29 electoral divisions. As in past years, the nomination centres are all in schools. This year, they include Raffles Institution, Yishun Primary, Fengshan Primary and Kerming Primary. Each school will host candidates for between 2 and 4 constituencies. Candidates also have to put up an election deposit of $14,500, down from $16,000 at the 2011 general election. This amounts to 8% of an MP's allowance in the preceding calendar year. Candidates lose this deposit if they fail to garner at least 1/8 of the total valid votes polled in an electoral division. In addition, minority candidates contesting in a group representation constituency or GRC must obtain a certificate from either the Malay Community Committee or the Indian and Other Minority Communities Committee.
Well, some updates were also made to the handbook for election candidates. The new guidelines laid out by the Elections Department expressly advise candidates against what's described as negative campaigning practices. According to the updated handbook, candidates are required to conduct election campaigning in a responsible and dignified manner that befits the seriousness of the election process. They should also steer away from negative campaigning practices based on hate and denigration of opposing candidates. They should not make false statements that allege corruption or commission of criminal offences, or statements that may cause racial or religious tensions or affect social cohesion. Egregious acts of negative campaigning could be in breach of the law. In another addition to the handbook, candidates who intend to distribute or screen films in public must submit them to the Media Development Authority for classification. And one of the formats permitted under internet election advertising is historical or biographical information about the political party or candidate. To ensure public safety, drones should not be used at nomination centres. They're also not allowed at rallies and other election meetings. And the police will not hesitate to take firm action against any person or group who endangers public safety. There's also an update on the transport of ballot boxes. The candidate or polling agents may observe the process of transporting the sealed ballot boxes from the polling stations to the counting centres. For each polling station, only one person per candidate or group of candidates in the case of a GRC will be allowed to participate.